no TV shows.
Let's cut here.
First, let's deal with the size that I like to use and the way I prepare my billet pad. Normal size A4 piece of paper. Normal printing paper from a computer. Easy as that. I'm only using the different colored papers to help show you the switches and just to clarify the moves. But essentially what you do, well, what I do, I always use a ruler. I never use scissors. And the reason I never use scissors, two reasons. A, takes longer, and B, it stops me from doing an effect I like to use the edges, the torn edges for. And I will teach you that effect in this very tutorial. So I tear the paper in half like you can see me doing there. And you can see where it's torn. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? And then I take it like this. I just put a little bend in it so I know where the middle is. Take the ruler again, and I tear it again, a second time. Then I tear it a third time and I'm done. So you tear each paper, you put them together, you measure, and then what you do is you tear it a third time. Now you've got enough to do 3 or 4 billet acts with just what you've torn here. Okay. Now, if you want to make a pad, it's very easy. You just do it with multiple pieces of paper and then make it a bit thicker than that. And you take an elastic, put it around there, and now you've got a billet pad. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And you can carry it around with you. It's just like the size of a pack of cards. So, into one day, who knows? Leave your cards at home. Show them a bit of this. They'll be glad for the break. Believe me. So, you make your billet pad like this. Now, another thing that you can keep in mind. I don't know those of you who know the out to lunch principle. Well, if you make your elastic thick enough, you can prepare an out to lunch pad as well. That looks very nice, and you can do other effects. And I'm going to get into those effects in the next tutorial, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Anyway, out to lunch principle can also work. Billet pad, very easy. Now, a lot of times magicians would say, but that's not natural to carry. I mean, who carries one of these and a pen with them, And in the beginning, I fell for that logic. Before I started realizing how clever mentalists actually are, I fell for that logic. And I thought to myself, yeah, but who does carry around these things with them? So what I used to do, it's ridiculous, even at paid gigs. When I get asked, show me something else, I go, I'll have the pad in my pocket, and then I'll go, now hang on, let me just go and see if one of the waitresses has some paper for me. And then I'd run to where they couldn't see me and come back with my pad in my hand, thinking I'm so clever. I've just convinced them that this is a perfectly ordinary, nobody cares. Nobody cares. As a matter of fact, the fact that it took longer makes you look like more of a prick. What I'm saying is, nobody cares. Show them the thing. Don't be so paranoid about, does it look like something you can carry? Who cares? You're reading minds. Is that something you normally do? So relax about it. Make yourself a billet pad. Make it like about 3 times thicker than this. Put it in your pocket. Prepare it out to lunch. You can do half an hour at one table with the... So, let's get into it. The size. Now, the original size of the original billet is like this. Okay? It's long. The original billet switch works like that. And the reason it's long is so that it fits between the flanges of the middle finger. So now this perfectly fits. If I bend my finger slightly, which it should be, it perfectly fits in my hand like this. So I can naturally handle objects, some mentalist smoke. You can hide a billet nicely there. And that's the reason. It also gives your fingers a lot more freedom of movement. Okay? And the way that I fold... I don't want to do that. Okay. Anyway, so the way I fold it is I've torn my billet as so. You fold it in half, turn it, fold it in half again, Don't turn it this time, but fold it down again. And that is the size. So when you eventually do a sort of billet switch, the original switch, which is basically to talk and then switch it like that, it's easy to do. It's the same size. They look the same. You can switch them in and out. Now, I'll get into this, the nitty-gritties of all the different kinds of switches that I do. There are more switches than card tricks, right? So I'll take you through the classic switch, and then we'll get into the other sort of switches. But what I found is that in conjunction with having a pad, I have lots of these folded in my pocket. And the reason I have lots of these folded in my pocket is because that's the instance I want to do a quick mentalism effect where I want to read your mind and be done. I don't want to sit there and be rolling dice and cutting cards and getting a book and a word out of a book, and I don't want to be doing that. I'm at a bar. Do you want to see something interesting? I show them something where I can read their mind. I know what they're thinking. Boom, biddy, bing, bada, bing, bada, boom. I'm out of there. That's the kind of effect that I do when I carry lots of these in my pocket. Obviously, they're the same color. Okay, don't be a politically correct term for a person who doesn't think. Okay, so lots of these in your pocket, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So let's get through the original switch, and then we can discuss the other switches and the other subtleties, and then we'll go into routines. Now, the original switch works like this. This is the one you want to switch in with the information, and this is the dummy. The original switch works in this way. You grip the original and the dummy like that, with the dummy next to the finger and the original under the thumb. And then the move works where you take the middle finger and you push out the dummy while you pull this one in with your thumb. And there you've switched it. Now, usually with that soldier, what he would do is he got so good at the switch that he would be able to put it up to his forehead in one motion doing the switch. So let me show you that again. The original switch is actually used by mentalists while they're talking and gesticulating. Fancy word. So what they normally do is they do the switch while they're gesticulating with their hands. And that's fair enough. But I think if you get proficient enough to be able to do it in one move is a lot better. Okay? So that's the original switch. It's as simple as that. Just pushing it out there with your middle finger, right? And then pulling the other one in with your thumb. Takes a bit of practice to get to know where your fingers should be. But once you get there, trust me, it's like second nature. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, I'm going to teach you the EB switch, which I love to use myself. It's the Elliot Bresler switch from that book, Switchcraft, that I mentioned. Get that book. And let me teach you that switch now, and then we'll get a little bit more into the psychology of switching, which I think is very important. Most magicians misunderstand that. So let's get into the EB switch, and then we'll get into some psychology. Now, the EB switch, the beauty of the EB switch is the fact that you can have much larger billets. You can switch much larger billets that are folded in a much larger shape. You could even have the billets folded in a different shape, like this. Okay? So, whatever you prefer, the larger, the smaller. I say the smaller, the better. It not only makes it easier to conceal, but then people won't use the excuse that you could have somehow read through it. But anyway, okay. So the EB switch is very basic. You hold he likes to do it this way, where he clips it like this with the dummy billet, which is in blue, goes on top of the original billet. But I don't like to do it like that. Because you have to do like funny movements with your thumb. I like to grab it on top. It doesn't make much of a difference, but it couldn't mean the world to you. So just play around with it and see what you can come up with. But basically what the EB switch is it's passing the billet from one hand to another in order to accomplish a task with this hand. Now this is the psychology I'm talking about. You can also pass it from the right hand to the left to switch it, okay? But the original switch that I do is I grab the billet and talk for a bit, then I pass the billet to the other hand in order to retrieve something, and in that way I've accomplished the switch, okay? So that's how it works. Once again, grip the billets like this. You pass them together to this hand. This hand grips the two billets together at the point that they contact, and then you move it. So let's go in slow-mo without describing it. And then, so you've got the billet there already. You've taken it with this hand. You reach up for that hand, and then so it doesn't have to be, it just has to be smooth. It doesn't have to be artistically perfect. But let's get into the psychology a little bit so that you can understand a little bit more of what I mean. Now, to get into the psychology of billet switching, there has to be a reason for everything you do. And the switch isn't done artistically. That's often the misnomer that magicians think, is that the switch should look completely invisible, almost like a color change. And that's wrong. Wrong! Okay. No, you do it when they're not looking. It's the same principle as the pass. The pass with cards is not supposed to be an invisible move. It's supposed to be a smooth move, done when they're not looking. And this is the whole principle behind billets that magicians just simply don't understand. The switch happens when the audience's attention is relaxed. And the only time you can get good, or the only way, should I say, you could get good at knowing when the audience's attention is ebbing and flowing is by performing a lot. There's no way around it. You can't practice that. You get to have an instinct about when they're paying attention and when they're not. And these are the moments where mentalists shine. And there's many reasons. You need psychological reasons for switching something or the need to move something. Always has a reason. When you move something on a table, it's either to get it out the way or to use it. Okay? Always. You wouldn't do this while you're talking to someone. While you're talking to someone, if you did this all the time, people would think, what this oak's crazy, right? Or this guy's crazy. You don't know what the word oak means. Anyway, so they'd think you're crazy. So you need a reason for it. So what reason could you have for switching? One of the best reasons is a glass or a pen or a lighter, okay? So those are three reasons you could switch. So in order to get a glass, you've got the dummy in this hand, and you purposely, now everything you do has to be planned. Where you put the glass, where you put the pen, where you put the lighter, this is all important stuff. We'll dive very deep into that next week. But right now, the idea behind it is this. If I need the pen, and you've given me the billet over there, and then I take it and I talk for a bit, blah, 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 and then I go to take a pen, and I say, I'd like you to do this too. Please sign your name on it. There's a reason. There's a reason I exchanged hands with the billet. Let's try it with the traditional billet, right? There's a reason for everything. Okay, so I've got the dummy in my hand and the original billet, and now I need the glass. But I'm talking for a while, making it look casual, and then I take the glass like this and I drop the billet in the glass, the dummy. Now, these are all natural actions. No one would suspect anything, because the idea that I'm not going to grab the glass like this, okay, I don't think anyone really would. So the idea that I'm taking the billet and I'm exchanging hands to get the glass makes perfect sense. And I can talk a little while and then drop the billet in, and it looks very casual because nothing has happened. When you want people to think something is happening is when things should already be done. So it's the same for a pen. It's the same for anything. If I wanted to, for example, put my pen away, I could take the billets like this and switch them and put the pen away, talk for a bit, and then I've switched it in. But what magicians think you need to do is get the billet, and while you're talking, switch it while you're talking, while they're looking at your hands, while they're burning everything, while you're talking. They want to do everything. They're always in a rush to get things done, don't you find? Magicians, they're in a rush to, I've got to get to my pocket with this thing. It's in my hand. Oh, my hand looks dirty. Thumb tip guilt. All of that, right? Stupid. Just take your time. You're talking. This is the one you want. And you want to give them the one that's the dummy. So you're talking for a while, you talk, you say, listen, I need this glass so that we can keep the billet safe. You don't call it a billet, for God's sake. Don't call it a billet, just say piece of paper. Please, guys, don't call them billets when you perform. Okay, so let's try that again. Got the billet, you're talking about whatever you want to talk about, the powers of the mind. You say, you know what, to isolate this thought, I think we can use the glass. Let's use the glass. Put your hand on top so I can't get to it. Perfect, right? Perfect. Timing, everything. Perfect. And this is something that you need to go out there and learn for yourself. But there's a reason. Think about it logically. I'm not going to spoon feed you a routine. Depending on what you want to do with the billet, you might want to burn it, you might want to tear it, you might want to throw it in the burn, you might want to do a couple of other subterfuges. So we'll get deeper into all of those next week. But those are the switches for now. Let me give you a couple of routines that you can work on and hopefully amaze people with.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go through a technique called double writing or layer writing. And what I do is I keep quite a few of these. I'll keep about a dozen of these billets in my pocket. Okay, so these are all in my pocket now. And this is in my other pocket. So what I do is I pull out a billet and I tell the person, listen, open, and I tell them to write a number, a name, a simple picture, whatever on there, and then fold it up 3 times again the way it's folded so that it's impossible for me to read it. I give them that instruction. I say fold it up the way it was. That will make it impossible for me to read it, okay? And they won't question it. And if they do question it, you've got a heckler and rather just say, nice to meet you, have a nice evening. But that's another story, okay? So they will fold it up, they will comply, and in that instance, you get your dummy, okay? Now, take the dummy, and you talk for a while, and then exchange hands, and then you get a lighter off the table. I love to burn it, and I say, hang on, no, I don't want to do this. You're going to think that I'm reading it. You take it, and you burn and throw the ashes in the ashtray. Now I've got the billet here. Now, every mentalist book teaches you how to do the switch, but most of them don't teach you how to read the information. So now I'm going to give you an example of how I would do it, okay, and how I would do it. So now they've burnt what they think is their billet. I reach into my pocket again, and in my pocket, I unfold their billet once. Just once, so that when I pull it out, it looks like a different piece of paper. That's a psychological subtlety, okay? You can take that to the bank. Then I open the billet with the thing that's written on towards me with my hand covering so they can't see through the paper, right? Say, for instance, they drew a key. They drew a key, a very crude looking key, okay? I'm going to do that. And they drew a very crude looking key on the billet. So what you do is you open the billet as if you've gotten it. You say, I'm going to try and see if I can copy pick up what you drew. And then they had the pen to write with, but you take out one of these to write with, okay? And what you do right in front of them, you say, I'm picking up vibes that you might have drawn something like this, and you make it slightly different. So you go over it, and then you make it a little bit longer, but you're going over their lines with the Cokie, and you go, I'm picking up something like this, and I'm picking up a circle, and then you do like a bunch of other lines like that. So you go over their drawing, basically, is what you're doing with the other Cokie, and you go, I don't know, I'm picking up like it's a weird, but I draw all these other lines like this to make it sort of seem like it's more like mind reading. I'll draw like, just to confuse them, right? You draw all over, but you've actually drawn all over their original billet. And then you go, I don't know, it sort of looks like a key to me. that I'm picking up, and then you show them the picture, they'll never guess that that's the same drawing they did. They'll think, especially because you've embellished it with other things, and they'll look at it and they'll say, wow, you know. So that's one way of doing it. It's called double writing. And then there's another way of doing it, which is even more diabolical. And it's actually, most magicians would say, that's terrible. But it's not, it's brilliant. You should trust me on this one. What you do is you get them to write a piece of information, say their mom's name. Okay, so you say, they write their mom's name on the thing. See? Okay. And then what you do is you've got your dummy. And then their billet, you do the original switch. You say, okay, pass me that lighter. Now you burn these two, burn the billet or whatever. And then they burn. I love to burn the billet because, you know, pieces. I've had people with a center tape put pieces together. That's next week's lesson. Then I do the subterfuge of unfolding it once in my pocket like this. And then I open it and I read it, but obviously I don't read it like this if you wrote it like this. I read it like that, just so that, you know, it doesn't look obvious that I'm reading something. And then I pretend to write something, and then I say, no, that's not right. And I crumple it up, and I get out another billet, and then just write what they wrote on that billet, like on the next one. You know, so you pretend to make a mistake, okay? And that is as simple as that. You pretend to make a mistake, and then you take out another piece of paper and you write the actual information. I can't tell you how you think that you'll never get away with that. But I promise you, if you are smooth and confident, you will. So in short, you've got to be confident, you've got to be bold, and you've got to have balls.
You have balls. I like balls.
One more thing that I didn't mention. When you're tearing up your pieces of paper like that, you'll notice that some pieces are torn on 2 edges and other pieces are torn on 3 edges. That gives you an opportunity to do yet another effect. I put the 2 edges that are torn on the bottom and the 3 edges that are torn on the top. And what I do is I go into this psychological thing where I say, I study handwriting, and, you know, even if you try and disguise your handwriting, I can still tell whether a male or a female has written what's on the piece of paper. Crap! Do you want to see? And then people will say, if it's like a mixed group of people, I give all the ladies the one with 3 edges that are torn and all the men the one with 2 edges that are torn. And I tell them, write whatever you like. It could be a name, a number, whatever. Try and disguise your handwriting if you like, and then fold it up any way you want, or crumple it up into a ball. But folding is better. I found that the one day I was battling to see the edges because it was very crumpled. So folding is better. Fold it up any way you want, so I can't, and then put it in to a glass. And then I would turn back around and I'd open them one by one, and I'd say, no, it looks like a girl wrote this. Who wrote this? And then the girl would write, and I'd give it back to her. And then it looks like a guy wrote this. Who wrote this? It was him. Give it back to him. And then I'd go through it till the last one. And then I would say, the last one's too easy. And then you can put in a nice little touch. You could do the last one. You could do a switch. And then say, the last one's too easy. I'll tell you what you wrote on here instead. Or I'll tell you what you're thinking instead. And think about that on the last one. So, guys, if you enjoyed this one, you're going to love number 2. And I'm not talking about number 2. So like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next week.